Well, I mean, I'm not advising anyone to buy crypto or bet the farm on, Dogecoin or anything like that.
Okay.
Don't bet the farm on Dogecoin. You might have been thinking, maybe you should, but let me advise you, that would be perhaps unwise.
Okay.
So, Dogecoin is my sort of favorite cryptocurrency because it has the best humor and has dogs.
I did, however, look at the price of it yesterday. It's lower than it was, I think.
It's like a friend of mine has a saying that the most ironic explanation is the most likely. And the most ironic outcome for currency would be that the thing that was made as a joke to make fun of cryptocurrencies, most ironic outcome would become that it becomes the global currency. The 20, 30-year time frame, I think things will be transformed beyond belief.
What is the scenario that really keeps you up at night?
Well, I don't think the AI is going to try to destroy all of humanity, but it might put us under strict controls. We probably won't recognize society in 30 years. Like, I do think we're fairly close. You asked me about artificial general intelligence. I think we're 3 years, maybe 6 years away from it this decade. So arguably we are on the event horizon of the black hole that is artificial intelligence.
In this video, Elon Musk, the richest man alive, breaks down how Dogecoin have a better chance than Bitcoin to become the world's reserve currency in the crypto world. He also shares his strong opinions about the rising use of AI technology in every single field of our daily life. He mentions the potential dangers of AI, including its use in the voting systems and social media manipulation, and highlights the importance of oversight and regulations. So enjoy watching, and don't forget to click on the like button for more videos like this.
The development of artificial digital sort of superintelligence is very much a double-edged sword. So if you have a genie that can grant you anything, that can also do anything, that necessarily presents a danger. And I would expect the first uses of AI to be, certainly the first government uses of AI to be weapons technology. So just having more advanced weapons on the battlefield that can react faster than any human could. That's really what AI will be capable of. I mean, future wars between advanced countries, or at least countries that have significant drone capability, will be very much the drone wars. Well, I think there should be a significant third horse in the race here. We've got OpenAI and Microsoft, Google DeepMind, and probably there should be a third horse in the race.
But is it something that will interact with the data of Twitter and the capability of Tesla? Is it something that tries to bring what you've talked about earlier in terms of capability together and become that third player? Is that what you're talking about?
To some degree. I don't want to jump the gun here on announcements, but OpenAI has a relationship with Microsoft that seems to work fairly well. So it's possible that XAI and Twitter and Tesla would have something similar. We've been pushing hard for a long time. I met with a number of senior senators and people in Congress and the White House to advocate for AI regulation, starting with an insight committee that is formed of independent parties as well as perhaps participants from the leaders in industry, and that oversight committee gains, or I should say, that insight committee gains insight into what various companies are up to, and to the degree that there's competitive dynamics there, you can obviously you would sequester board members who are perhaps have conflicts. But anyway, you figure out some sort of regulatory board, and they start off gaining insight, and then have proposed rulemaking, and then that will get commented on by industry, and then hopefully we have some sort of oversight rules that improve safety, just as we do with aircraft with the FAA and spacecraft, and cars with NHTSA, and food and drugs with the Food and Drug Administration.
Right. And how would that work in such a global thing as we're talking about, where AI and the relative advance between countries is going to be very, very important? Is that something that is globalizable? Is that?
Well, really, the key question is, will China, cooperate with the West? That remains to be seen. But I would still advocate like some degree of oversight. I mean, we have regulatory oversight of aircraft, for example, and yet the U.S. is still very much doing great on the aircraft front. So it makes more aircraft than any other place. So just because you have FAA regulation doesn't mean that it's necessarily slowed down very much.
Okay. So your view would be that the AI changes today lock in the tech giants, the Microsofts and the Googles of this world. Is there also a scenario where it actually helps to bring in new players and change that dynamic, or is that a much more unlikely outcome?
There are a lot of AI startups. The thing that's becoming tricky is that you really need three things to compete. You need talented people. You need a lot of expensive compute, and you need access to data. So whoever's succeeding on those three will win. So now that the cost of compute has gotten astronomical, so it's now kind of sort of minimum ante, I would say, minimum would be $250 million of server hardware. Minimum. That's like just to relevant in any way.
So the startups are more likely to piggyback off what the others are doing rather than compete directly themselves.
To train a model of probably GPT-5 size, I wouldn't be surprised if they use at least 30,000, maybe 50,000 H100s, which are the latest GPUs. It's not quite the right word, but the latest technology from NVIDIA. And then you need to run inference as well. So it's a lot of the GPUs are at this point considerably harder to get than drugs. Actually, that's really not a high bar in San Francisco. And services, I think AI will be ushering an age of abundance. Assuming that we're in a benign AI scenario, I think the AI will be able to make goods and services very inexpensively. And so in anything that is a product or a service where there's not artificial scarcity created, such as like, I want to live exactly in this neighborhood of houses. It's like, okay, well, there's only 100 houses there, so that would still have scarcity. Or a unique artwork would have scarcity. But anything that does not have scarcity, that we deliberately designed to be scarce, will be plentiful for everyone.
But what's the thing that you're most worried about when you look at, when you've been talking for years about the need for regulation? What is the scenario that really keeps you up at night?
Well, I don't think the AI is going to try to destroy all of humanity, but it might put us under strict controls. And there's no non-zero chance of it going Terminator. It's not 0%, but it's. I think it's a small likelihood of annihilating humanity, but it's not zero. We want that probability to be zero, as close to zero as possible. And then, like I said, of AI assuming control for the safety of all the humans and taking over all the computing systems and weapon systems of Earth, and effectively being like some sort of Uber nanny.
But isn't another scenario?
If you say the AI, let's say you're a Miss World contestant, hypothetically.
It's unlikely. Let's face it. But
and you say, what do you want? And it's I want world peace. It's like, okay, well, one way to achieve world peace is to take all the weapons away from the humans, so they can no longer use them, and to punish any humans that engage in extraterritorial activity.
But isn't the more likely nasty outcome that rather than AI taking over and being the ultimate nanny that keeps us all doing stuff that is super safe and it wants us to, that actually somebody nefariously harnesses that power to achieve societal control, stroke, military superiority, and that actually some country around the world decides to use it in a different way?
Yes, that's what I mean by like AI uses as a weapon. And the pen is mightier than the sword. So one of the first places we have to be careful of AI being used is in social media to manipulate public opinion. 3 years, maybe 6 years away from it, this decade. So in fact, arguably we are on the event horizon of the black hole that is. I think that's something we need to be on the lookout for in a big way, is to make sure that we're minimizing the impact of AI manipulation. We're certainly very much taking that seriously at X Twitter, X/Twitter, and I think we're putting in place all of the protections to minimize and certainly detect when we see large-scale manipulation of the system. Especially if you go further out into the future, I mean, everything will be automatic. I mean, there'll be household robots that you can fully talk to, as though they're people that can help you around the house or be a companion or whatever the case may be. There will be humanoid robots throughout, factories, and ours will also be all automatic. And anything that where intelligence can be applied, even modest intelligence, will be automated. Certainly if you say like 10, 20 years from now.
And will we be connected to that technology through a Neuralink type device?
Maybe.
I mean, is that where this, in your view, obviously, is that where this heads?
Well, a high bandwidth interface from the cortex to the your sort of computing or AI tertiary layer, which already exists. It's just that we don't have a high bandwidth connection. We've got our limbic system, which is our sort of foundational element. That's sort of our instincts and desires and whatnot. Then our cortex on top of that, which is our thinking part of our brain. And then we've got a tertiary digital layer, which is currently in the form of our phones and computers and laptops and whatnot, and all the applications. And the constraint on better having human interests and machine interests be aligned is the bandwidth, especially the output. So if you say, like, at what speed can you output to a computer? It's using voice or your fingers, which move very slowly. So you're talking about maybe 10 bits per second or some fairly small data rate. So with the Neuralink, you can increase that by a million, probably.
So everything just speeds up.
Speeds up, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this is obviously in a relatively benign scenario, because there's a question of not just, let's say it's a benign scenario. How do we even appreciate or understand what the computer, how do we go along for the ride? And if we have a brain-machine interface that's, I don't know, 1 million times faster, then we're more like, we'll go along for the ride a lot better.
We're going to make a bold prediction here, and that is Elon Musk, the co-founder of Tesla and SpaceX, will find a way to integrate AI into the crypto world. This is why he talks about Dogecoin all the time, because it's the only coin that can be used in a large scale. And there's a lot of rumors about this, and also the news that Twitter will start accepting Dogecoin as a sort of payment in the app. There is already a coming update that will allow users to send Bitcoin and Ethereum. We hope that the next update will add Dogecoin to the list. Elon is working behind closed doors on adding AI technology to the crypto space. If this news alone came out, the market will certainly explode. Tell us in the comments what you think about this.